Your apartment is closer to the airport. My sister texted at 11 p.m. I'm dropping off my 4 kids for 2 weeks. My husband surprised me with Bora. I wrote back, I'm not home. She replied, Mom has your spare key. She's letting us in. I smiled and called security to change the locks immediately. When she arrived at my building with 4 suitcases, the doorman had new instructions. My name's Mark. I'm 34, and I fly people around the world for a living. On paper, I'm the success story of my family. First one to finish college, licensed commercial pilot by 27, steady job with a major airline, decent apartment in a city my parents still call too expensive. I spend half my life in the sky, and the other half trying to catch up on sleep. In my family, that translates to one thing. You're the one with money. Not you worked your ass off. Not we're proud of you. Just you can afford it, Mark. I'm the oldest. My sister Hannah is 31. She has 4 kids under the age of 10, a husband who dabbles in crypto, and a talent for making every problem sound like my responsibility. My mom, Linda, is the kind of woman who lives for Facebook posts about being a selfless mother. My dad mostly hides behind his newspaper or his phone and lets her speak for both of them. I don't see them often because my schedule is insane. Rotating shifts, red ice, time zones that make my brain feel like scrambled eggs. But about once a month, if I'm in town on a Sunday, I drag myself out to the suburbs for dinner. That night, the night everything really started sliding. I just come off a brutal 4-day trip. New York to London, London to Rome, Rome back to JFK, then down to Miami. Delays, turbulence, a screaming drunk in row 18. I'd slept maybe 6 hours in 2 days. But my mom texted, family dinner. Everyone's coming. Don't disappoint your nieces. So I went. I walked into the house and was hit with the usual wall of noise. Cartoon channel blaring. Kids running in socks on hardwood floors. My mom yelling from the kitchen about potatoes. Mark, she called without turning around. You're late. I just landed, I said, dropping my overnight bag by the door. Literally, I came straight from the airport. Hannah was at the table with her phone, one hand shoveling macaroni into the toddler, the other scrolling TikTok. She glanced up at me and smirked. Must be nice, she said, flying around the world while the rest of us have real lives. I took a deep breath. I was too tired to argue. Mom turned, wiping her hands on a dish towel. We were just talking about the van, she said. Hannah's is dying. The mechanic said it's dangerous to drive with the kids. We figured you could help. There it was. No. Hello. No. How was your flight? Straight to the ask. Hannah rolled her eyes dramatically. Yeah, we figured because apparently Luke and I are supposed to conjure 10 grand out of thin air. And you're single. No kids. You've got that pilot money. I looked at my dad. He kept his eyes on the game, playing quietly on the TV in the corner. I just paid off my own car, I said. And my student loans. I'm still catching up. Mom gave me that tight smile she uses right before she says something that will stick in your brain for months. Oh, please, Mark. You make more in a month than your father ever did at your age. Family helps family. You don't want your nieces riding around in a death trap, do you? That sentence sat in my chest like a brick. Family helps family, meaning you help us. I sat down at the table, already feeling that old familiar mix of guilt and anger rolling in my stomach. I didn't know it then, but that was the first little crack before everything blew up. Hannah didn't always have 4 kids and a broken van. When we were younger, she was the princess. Not in a bratty way at first, just protected. I was the one mowing lawns at 14, bagging groceries at 16, saving for flight school because my parents made it clear they weren't paying for anything that expensive and risky. You want to fly planes? My dad said once, then you better figure out how to get off the ground on your own. So I did. I worked every spare hour, studied, took out loans that made my head spin, and spent years bouncing between crappy apartments and crash pads with 3 other pilots just to make it through training. Meanwhile, Hannah bounced between majors and boyfriends in gap years. When she got pregnant at 23, my parents panicked for about a week. Then they pivoted. Babies are blessings. My mom decided we'll figure it out. By we, she met me. It started small. Hannah called me crying because her rent was past due and the baby formula was expensive. Just this once, Mark. I swear, I wired her $600 I didn't really have. Then the power bill. Then the security deposit for a bigger place. Then emergency dental work for the toddler. Every time there was a reason. Every time my mom called right after, "You know they're struggling," she'd say. "You don't understand how hard it is with kids. You're lucky you get to travel." Lucky. That word always tasted bitter. By the time Hannah had her third kid, I'd lost count of how many times I had stepped in. I paid off one of their credit cards after she ugly cried on the phone about late fees. I co-signed a loan for the minivan they eventually destroyed. I used my employee benefits to book them cheap flights to Disney for the kids' memories. Even though I couldn't remember the last time I'd taken a real vacation myself. Every time I tried to set a boundary, it turned into a family referendum on my character. One Christmas, I said no to buying an iPad from Santa. Hannah's face crumpled. "You're seriously going to make me tell my kids Santa couldn't afford it?" My mom jumped in. "Mark, stop being dramatic. It's just money. You can't take it with you." Dad cleared his throat like he wanted to speak, then went back to his ham. I started to feel less like a son and more like a walking ATM with a pilot's license. The thing about flying is, from the outside, it looks glamorous. People think layovers mean sightseeing and cocktails. In reality, it's dragging your wheeled suitcase through airports at 4 a.m., eating sad sandwiches alone in hotel rooms, and waking up not sure what country you're in. On my days off, I was exhausted. I needed quiet sleep instead. My phone never stopped buzzing. "Uncle Mark, can you watch the kids Saturday so Luke and I can have date night?" "Hey bro, any hotel points you're not using? There's this resort. Can you cover the difference on this car seat? The safe ones are so expensive." If I didn't answer fast enough, the group chat lit up. Family. Mom. Mark. Hannah. "Wow. Must be nice to ignore your family." Mom. "We never asked for anything unless we really need it." That wasn't true. They asked constantly, and they never saw it. I remember one day sitting in a layover hotel in Chicago, staring at my banking app. I had just transferred $1,200 for school uniforms and fees. My savings account looked thin for someone who worked as much as I did. I did the math. Over the last 5 years, I'd given them enough to buy that van twice. Enough to put a down payment on a small house. Enough to have taken myself on a vacation that wasn't just sleeping in a different bed between flights. Instead, I had Hannah's text from the week before. "Honestly, you should be grateful. We give your life meaning. Without us, you'd just be some lonely guy in a cockpit." I didn't respond to that one. The resentment built slowly, like a flight that keeps getting delayed in 20-minute increments. You stay at the gate because surely this delay will be the last one. The final straw came on a Tuesday night. I was finally home after another run of back-to-back flights. I'd showered, eaten cheap takeout on my couch, and was half asleep on top of the covers with some random documentary playing in the background. My phone buzzed at 11:02 p.m. It was Hannah. "Your apartment is closer to the airport." She texted, dropping off the kids for 2 weeks. Luke surprised me with Bora. I stared at the screen, trying to convince myself I misread it. 2 weeks? No warning. I scrolled up looking for any previous message about this trip. Nothing. I typed what? 3 dots. "Then we fly out tomorrow afternoon. This is literally the only time we can go. You'll be fine. Kids love you." My heart started pounding. I looked around my one-bedroom place. Tiny couch, 1 bathroom, 0 kid-proofing. I pictured 4 small humans tearing through my stuff while I tried to sleep between flights. Also, I wasn't even going to be in town for most of those 2 weeks. My schedule was already set. Long-haul flights, multiple overnights. I typed, "I can't. I'm working. I won't even be here." Her reply came fast, like she'd already prepared it. "Mom has your spare key. She's letting us in. We'll drop them at your place on the way to the airport. Don't make this a thing." My stomach dropped. They had already decided. I looked at that line. Mom has your spare key. And something in me went cold. I realized in that moment my own home wasn't really mine in their heads. It was another resource, another thing they could use. I put my phone down. For the first time in years, I didn't immediately start thinking of how to make it work. Instead, I felt this strange sharp calm. I picked the phone up again and smiled at my reflection in the black screen. Then, I scrolled to the number for my building's front desk. Front desk? This is Miguel. Hey, it's Mark in 14B, I said. My voice sounded weirdly steady even though my heart was pounding. I need to ask you something about the locks. There was a pause. Sure, Mr. Collins. Everything okay? Not yet, I said. But it will be. I explained quickly that I needed my locks rekeyed first thing in the morning. That under no circumstances was anyone to be led into my apartment without me physically present. Not my mom, not my sister, not family, no one. Miguel was quiet for a beat. Got it, he said finally. We can have maintenance there at 8. And I'll make a note for all doormen. No access without you. Thank you, I said. I hesitated, then added. My mom may show up saying I approved it. I didn't, he chuckled softly. We see that a lot. Don't worry, we'll follow your instructions. After I hung up, the adrenaline hit. My hands shook. My phone buzzed again. Mom. Hannah told me you're being difficult. Before I could respond, she called. I answered. What is this I hear about you refusing to help? She snapped before I could say hello. Your sister finally gets something nice, and you're going to ruin it. I'm not ruining anything. I said, I have work. I can't take 4 kids for 2 weeks. That's not babysitting. That's parenting. You're exaggerating. She said, they'll be in school most of the day. You're barely ever home anyway. What's the difference? I am home when I'm not on a flight, I said. Those days are the only time I have to rest. I can't be responsible for 4 kids alone. It's not safe. She sighed dramatically. I knew this was coming. Money's gotten to your head. You used to be sweet. I laughed. It came out harsh. I used to be scared, I said. That's not the same thing. She went quiet just long enough for me to picture her face. Lips pressed in, eyes narrowed. Listen to me, she said finally. We already told the kids they're staying with you. Hannah and Luke have non-refundable tickets. There is no backup plan. So you will stop this nonsense, and you will be at your apartment tomorrow, and you will open the door. No, I said. The silence on the line was deafening. What did you say? She whispered. I said, no, I repeated. You don't get to volunteer me for free childcare without asking. You don't get to wave family around like a contract. I didn't agree to this. You ungrateful little. She cut herself off. After everything we've done for you, I almost choked. Everything you've done for me, she barreled on. We supported your dream. We watched you chase the sky. I could hear the air quotes. We didn't ask you to pay us back. And now that your sister needs you, you slammed the door in her face. I've given Hannah over $20,000 in the last 5 years, I said. My voice was shaking now, but I kept going. I have the transfers saved. Rent, bills, van credit cards. I've taken shifts off to babysit so you and Dad could go on cruises. I've used my flight benefits to send you on vacations I couldn't afford for myself. That's different, she snapped. That's what family does. You didn't have to. You made it very clear I did. I said every time I hesitated, you called me selfish. You cried. You said the kids would go without food, without school, without Christmas. Do you even hear yourself? She went silent again. For once, I said, I'm saying no before you back me into a corner. I'm not your emergency fund. I'm not your free nanny, and I'm changing my locks tomorrow. You wouldn't dare, she hissed. Consider this your notice, I said. If you show up at my building with those kids and suitcases, they will not be allowed upstairs. If you leave them there anyway, I will call CPS. Not because I want to hurt you, but because leaving 4 kids in a lobby is neglect. You're threatening me with the government. Her voice went high, hysterical over family. I'm protecting myself, I said. And honestly, I'm protecting your kids from your entitlement, she gasped. I hope you enjoy your empty life, Mark. When we're gone, you'll regret this." The line went dead. I sat there in the dark, phone still pressed to my ear, shaking for a second. The guilt washed over me, so hard I thought I might call back and apologize. Offer to figure it out, take unpaid leave, destroy myself a little more. Then I pictured my tiny apartment, the walls I paid for, the bed I barely slept in, the years of lost time and money I would never get back, and I let the guilt pass. The next day, maintenance changed my lock at 8 sharp. At 10:30, as I was coming back from grabbing coffee, I saw them. Hannah, Luke, my mom for kids. 6 suitcases, all standing in the lobby in front of Miguel's desk. Hannah's arms were flailing as she yelled. The kids were already whining. My mom was pointing dramatically at the ceiling. Miguel spotted me first. His eyes widened just a little, then flicked in their direction. "Mark." Hannah whirled around. "Tell your little guard dog to let us up. He's saying you changed instructions." "I did," I said. Her mouth fell open. "What is this?" Mom demanded. "Some kind of performance? Do you want the whole building to see what a cold person you've become?" Luke stayed quiet, eyes shifting. Between us like a nervous spectator. "You were told no," I said. My voice echoed in the marble lobby. "You decided that didn't matter. You tried to use a key I gave Mom for emergencies." "This is an emergency," Hannah cried. "Do you know how much these tickets cost? We already checked out of the house. The kids are excited. You can't do this to us." I felt everyone's eyes on us. The receptionist, a couple in gym clothes, a delivery guy holding an arm full of packages. 2 weeks of free childcare is not an emergency, I said. It's a favor, and I didn't agree to it. Mom stepped forward, eyes blazing. "You are shaming your family in public." "You puss here," I said quietly. "You did this." I pulled my phone out and opened my banking app. My hands were shaking, but I scrolled to the transfers. Hannah Collins over and over. I turned the screen toward her. "This is the last 5 years." I said, "Rent, bills, car, vacations, uniforms. You've treated me like a bank with no security questions. That ends today." She glanced at the screen, then scoffed. "So what? You want a medal?" "No," I said. "I want you to stop acting like you're entitled to my life." My mom laughed high and bitter. "Listen to him. Mr. Pilot thinks he's better than the rest of us." "No," I said again. "I think I'm equal. That's what bothers you." I turned to Miguel. "They're not on my guest list. Please don't let them upstairs." He nodded, face neutral. "Of course, Mr. Collins." Hannah stared at me like she didn't recognize me. "You're choosing money over your own nieces and nephews," she whispered. I looked at the kids. One was picking at his shoelace. Another looked like she was about to cry because of the tension. "I'm choosing my sanity," I said. "And I'm choosing not to be used anymore. You are their parents, not me." Mom shook her head, eyes glossy with angry tears. "You're dead to me," she spat. I nodded once. "Okay." They stormed out, dragging suitcases and kids behind them. I stood there in the suddenly quiet lobby, feeling like someone had just depressurized the cabin. It hurt. No point pretending it didn't. But underneath the hurt was something else. Relief. They went to Bora anyway. I found out via Instagram. 3 hours after the lobby showdown, Hannah posted a photo of herself in oversized sunglasses, holding a coconut with a little umbrella in it. Captioned, "Finally taking time for us. #deserved #blessed." The kids were tagged at Grandma and Grandpa's. So much for no backup plan. I stared at the screen, then laughed not because it was funny, but because of how predictable it was. My mom texted me that night. "You humiliated us," she wrote. "Your father is furious. The kids are confused. I hope your empty apartment keeps you warm at night." I put my phone on Do Not Disturb. The next few days were weirdly quiet. No constant buzzing for favors, no guilt-laced, just checking in messages, no requests for money. I went to work, flew my flights, came home, and the silence felt heavy at first, like I was missing a frequency I'd always tuned into. Then it started to feel good. I had my first full day off with nothing to do but exist. I slept in. I made actual breakfast instead of airport food. I sat on my balcony with coffee and no one yelling my name. I booked a massage on a whim. When the receptionist told me the price, I flinched automatically, already converting it into, "That's half a utility bill for Hannah." Then I stopped. It was my money for my job for my body that was constantly jet-lagged and sore. I said, "Yeah, that's fine," and paid. Afterwards, my shoulders felt lighter, but so did something in my chest. The smear campaign started small. A cousin I hadn't spoken to in years DM'd me. "Hey, what happened with your mom?" She posted something kind of vague. I checked Facebook. My mom had written one of those long martyrdom posts. "Some of us give everything for our children and receive nothing but cruelty in return," she wrote. Imagine raising a son who values money over his own family. Pray for my heart. Hundreds of likes, dozens of comments, sending hugs. "You're such a good mom. Stay strong. God sees everything." She didn't tag me, but she didn't need to. Everyone knew. For a second, the shame burned hot. A part of me wanted to write a novel-length comment listing every dollar, every sacrifice, every way they'd used me. Instead, I closed the app. If there's one thing flying taught me, it's that you can't control the weather. Only your response. Over the next few weeks, other things surfaced. My aunt called me in secret. "For what it's worth," she said, "I heard what happened. Your mom made it sound like you dumped 4 kids on the sidewalk, but then she let slip that she and your father watched them anyway." She paused. "You know, she's been bragging for years that Mark will take care of us when we're old, right?" I figured. I said, "You did the right thing," she said quietly. "I wish I'd done it sooner with my own kids." We talked longer than we had in years. By the end of the call, she admitted she'd been slipping her own adult son money for years and felt trapped. "Seeing you say no," she said, "it made me think maybe I'm allowed to stop too." I started therapy. I'd been meaning to for ages, always telling myself I'd do it when my schedule calmed down, which was a joke. I found a therapist who worked online between flights. The first session, I told her about the van, the money, the hallway scene, the Bora trip. She leaned back and said, "You know this is parentification, right? They've been treating you like a third parent and financial safety net since you were a teenager." I shrugged. "Isn't that just being the oldest?" "No," she said. "It's being exploited." She gave me words I hadn't had. Boundaries, inchment, financial abuse. It felt dramatic at first, but the more I talked, the more the pieces clicked. At home, small changes added up. I canceled the automatic transfer I'd set up to Hannah every month, just in case. I closed the joint emergency credit card my mom had for the kids. I changed my will to leave my assets to a charity and a couple of friends instead of my parents if they outlive me, which my mom had pushed me to write when I first started flying. I watched my savings account slowly grow for the first time in years. On a rare long stretch of days off, I booked myself a trip. Not as crew, no uniform, no cabin announcements, just as a passenger, somewhere quiet by the ocean with no one's needs but my own. I almost felt guilty standing in the boarding line with my own suitcase and no responsibilities. Then I remembered Hannah on that beach with her coconut captioned, #blessed paid for partly by the money I'd already given her over the years. I allowed myself the exact same luxury, only this time it wasn't on anyone else's back. Back home, things were shifting with the rest of the family, too. My dad called once, just once. He cleared his throat the way he always did before saying something uncomfortable. "You know your mother is upset," he said. "I know," I replied. "She says you disrespected her," he added. "And Hannah," I waited. Then he surprised me. "I also know how much you've helped them," he said quietly. "I've seen your name on their bank statements more than once." Silence. I should have said something sooner, he admitted. I didn't. That's on me. I didn't know what to do with that. "I'm trying," he added, sounding old all of a sudden. "I don't agree with how that Bora thing went. It wasn't right. It wasn't a full apology. It didn't erase anything, but it was the first time in my entire life my father had acknowledged the dynamic at all. Thanks for saying that." I managed. He didn't push me to make peace. He didn't tell me to apologize. He just let the line sit there, gentler than usual. "I hope you're taking care of yourself up there," he said before hanging up. I am, I said, and for once it was true. Hannah stayed quiet. No texts, no calls, no happy birthday, even though I knew she'd seen the notification on Facebook. Then one day, about 6 months later, my phone buzzed with her name. Hannah. Hey, just that I stared at it for a long time. Then another bubble appeared. I'm not asking for money, she wrote. I exhaled. Didn't realize I'd been holding my breath. She followed with, I just wanted to say, we found a sitter. We budgeted. It sucked, but we did it. I waited. And I shouldn't have tried to dump the kids on you like that, she typed. Luke said if anyone tried to do that to us, we'd lose it. I sat down on the edge of my bed. I'm glad you figured it out. I wrote back. You're their parents. You'll find a way. She didn't exactly apologize, but it was the closest she'd ever come to admitting I'd been right to say no. We didn't suddenly become best friends. I didn't start wiring her money again, but the tone had shifted from you owe us to something more level. I realized then that me saying no hadn't destroyed them. It had forced them to finally grow up a little, and it had forced me to finally live my life like it belonged to me. Sometimes on red-eye flights, I still hear my mom say, "You're dead to me." And my own calm. Okay, I was scared that moment would haunt me, but therapy made it clear. I didn't end my family. I ended my role as their wallet. Now things are distant, but quiet. Hannah handles her own bills, and the spare key is finally mine again. I'm still their son, but I fly my own plane and choose where my time and money land. I'm on the narrator's side here because Mark came home exhausted from a multi-I2I run, received an 11:02 p.m. text that 4 kids would be dropped at his 1-bedroom for 2 weeks, and discovered his mom had his spare key and planned to let them in. What this story teaches us is that family helps family can become a blank check if you don't define limits early and in writing. 2 takeaways: document everything. Save transfer history and screenshots like Mark's $20,000 plus over 5 years, and secure your life like it matters.